Welcome to another lecture on game development with Asha Akanksha Foundation. In this video, we will learn what Unity Store is and how it can be used to import assets. We will also learn about object movement and scripting. Lastly, we will learn what Rigidbody is. So I think it's time to explore the Unity Asset Store. You would have seen that when I create a 2D object, it asks me of the kind of sprite that I want to create. So these are the figures that would be shown, but these are not enough to create a game. We would be needing much more figures for that. So how would we do that? So right now, let's, for example, we have a circle figure. Again, we'll name it a player. This is too simple to be a player character. Let's see what Unity asset has for us. So on the Unity asset store, you can search for any number of assets. So for example, if I want to search for a human asset, so I add the category as 2D. I also add the free assets part. Now these are the ones that is showing. So there are a lot of assets provided, so these are the ones that match the search term. But if you have a look at the general asset store, you can find quite a lot of them. So once you choose an asset, for example, if I like the, say this one, or let me just look at the free one. Right, so if I like this one, I take a quick look at what all it's providing me. So it provides me with this girl figure, and I can what I can do is that I can click on add to my assets. Once that is completed, I can go to my assets, and these are the ones that I already have. So for example, if I want to open this asset, so I go to open in Unity. It shows me a package manager with the assets that I have. So these are the ones that are not downloaded yet, the ones that show the symbol. The other ones are already downloaded on my computer. So when you do this for the first time, it would be not downloaded. So for example, this one is not downloaded, but the 2D sprites pack that I was talking about, that has already been downloaded. So all I need to do is click on import. The sprites, all the sprites that it has are shown to me, and then I can click on import simply. Now they have been imported to a folder called Sprites. So these are all the things that it has. It has a ball, an asteroid, a bird, everything. So it also has different buttons, a car, and quite a lot of other assets. So let's use the grass sprite to create the ground. So this is the sprite. I drag it to the screen. Now I see that it does not cover the whole screen. I can either I can scale it or add 3 sprites to cover the whole screen. I prefer scaling it to 3 size. So it may stretch different assets, but since this is just grass, it does not matter. Or I don't like this one, I will use the other one here. Again, scale it up. So that's how my ground looks. Now I can place a ball on the screen, and let's position it to a height of 2. Now this is how my screen looks. I can add all the different assets that are there. For example, I can add the coin asset, position it. I can even drag it. So for example, if I use this one, I can drag it to any position. So if I want to add a coin at this point, I can easily do that. Now let's make the ball sprite our main player. I'll rename it to player. I will also add the player controller script that we had written in the previous video. Now we know that if we press the up button, the ball will go upwards. Let's change the script a little bit to add functions for left, right, down as well, so that we can move the ball in any direction. Now I have to just change the key number, and for translate for down I would have to add a negative sign because we want to go to in the opposite direction. Now for left we want to go in the minus direction for the x coordinate, and 0 for the y coordinate, and z coordinate is anyway 0 every time. For the right arrow I have to move in the x direction in the positive side, and 0 everything else. So now this script is complete for the ball to move properly. You can see you can move the ball easily in any direction we want, but obviously this is not the motion of how a real ball would behave in the real world. So it basically has no gravity, it has no other forces. So in order for it to behave like an actual object of real world, I have to add the rigid body. So I've added rigid body 2D, and it has a mass of 1, gravity scale is gravity scale is also 1. And now if I run it, what should happen? We already know that it would just fall. Now why didn't it collide with the grass? Because grass does not. So if we want two objects to collide, we have to add a collider to it, a collider component. So you can just search for a collider. Here we have a box collider. Box collider basically creates so if I click on the box collider, so you can see that the ball has a box collider now, and anything that collides with this box would be considered as a collision with the block. So instead of box collider, let's look at the different kinds of colliders that are there. So I have a circle collider which would be better suited for my object. So I've added a circle collider. It has a radius that is a little greater than the ball, so I'll make it back to make it a little smaller. Now for the grass, I will add a box collider as well, because for two objects to collide, both of them need to have a collider. So let's see the collider for this box. So this box has an extremely large collider. I have to change the shape of the collider now. The the y size is huge, so it basically covers the whole image, but we just want the collider to be half of that image, so we'll make it 5. We'll change the offset. The offset can be so we want to change the y offset, we want to move the collider downwards, so let's change it to 2, then 2.5. It perfectly fits the grass. Now let's try to run the game and see if the ball falls through, or yeah, basically we also have another ball player. Let's delete that one. Yeah, so basically if you delete any make any changes when the game is running, those changes are not retained when you when you stop the game. So make sure you make all the changes when the game is not running. So the ball has fallen. I think we can make the colliders a little more tighter instead of so. Hmm, 4 5 seems to fit. And for the grass also, let's move the offset a little more. Yeah, I think it's better now. Now the ball is on the grass. Now it's moving as expected, but we can't make the ball move upwards. Basically the ball can't jump right now. It can only move left and right because gravity is too strong for it to move upwards or down. Basically upwards, and downwards it can't move because it is colliding with the grass. So let's position the ball a little upwards so that we can see it falling properly. The motion is too fast. Okay, never mind. So now let's see how we can make the ball jump. We can add, since this is a rigid body, we can add forces to it. But for adding forces to a rigid body, you first need the reference of that rigid body. So we have already discussed how we can get the reference. So let's create a rigid body object. Let's make it private. Rigid body. Since this is a 2D rigid body, I'll just the class name is rigid body 2D. In the start function, we can locate the rigid body using the get component function. Once we have this rigid body, we can use it in our update. So here in the up and down, we want to add a force. So let's go to the documentation and search for rigid body dot add force. Now you can see it takes a 3D vector for the force component, and it also takes the mode of the force. So for example, when we are adding a force, there is one force that we add constantly, and the second force is by adding it as a trigger. So it is added as a thrust. So let me show you the different modes. So you have the modes are start, impulse, acceleration, force, and velocity change. So we want an impulse, we want the sudden force to be applied. So we'll use rigid body dot add force in the direction upwards. So the vector would be 0 1 0, and the mode would be impulse. So here we see that we can specify the mode as impulse, or another way to do it is you can just do force mode dot impulse. Now let's see we'll comment out the translate part. Let's see how this force is being added. And also, since this is an impulse force, we don't want to add it constantly. We just have to add it when the key is pressed down once, up, sorry, when the key is pressed down, that's when we want the force to be applied. So let's check the compiler errors. Right, so we have to use vector 3. So you can just pass it without equal to in C#. Let's change that. Where's the script? Also force mode again, we want to use a 2D mode. Seems extremely low. Let's try to increase the amount of force that we are applying to say 10. Now our ball is jumping upwards, so basically a force is being applied as soon as I press the up arrow key. Let's review the learning outcomes of this video. We learned how we can use Unity Store to import assets into the scene. We also learned how we can use scripts to make the object move left, right and jump. We also learned the concept of rigid body and how we can apply it to our game object to make it look like an actual physics object.